and welcome to session 4 of our series of Fireside Chats. My name is Mandy Mock, and I'm the founder and CEO of Applied AG. Applied AG is the new kid on the block as an international higher education service provider that specializes in evaluation, branding, and professional networking solutions. I started Applied AG in January this year after working with QS for 17 years. Today's fireside chat, Supporting Men in Taking Up Family Duties, is led by Mrs. Winnie Ely, partner at Education Insights UK and a veteran higher education leader with leadership experience in Asia, Europe, Australia, and Africa. She will be guiding today's discussion with 4 outstanding speakers from different parts of the world, whom she will introduce shortly to all of you. Please allow me to also thank Indonesia's Universitas Hasanuddin for being the main sponsor of this series of Applied AG Fireside Chats. Universitas Hasanuddin is a leading research-driven comprehensive university located in Makassar, South Sulawesi Province, Indonesia. Both Universitas Hasanuddin and the island of Sulawesi are true undiscovered gems, as UNHAS, as they are also known, is keen to explore further collaboration with international partners. I would also like to thank Education Insight as our co-hosting partner and our amazing panelists who have agreed to join us for what promises to be a very exciting and insightful fireside chat. Now, without further ado, allow me to hand over to the very capable and always charming Mrs. Winnie Ely. Over to you, Winnie.
Thank you, Mandy. Welcome to Apply HE Fireside Chat. For delegates who joined us in the last 3 months, welcome back. For delegates who join us for the first time, a warm welcome. The Apply HE Fireside Chat brings to you a global panel of knowledgeable and passionate speakers on topical issues. Today's topic is supporting men in taking up family duties. The Apply HE Fireside Chat is designed to be cozy, relaxed, engaging at the same time, serious, fun, provocative, thought-provoking, and blue sky. Most important of all, we'll welcome a lively interaction between our speakers and participants. Many of you have posted your questions when you registered. We will give you a chance to ask your questions once our speakers have had their 3 minutes each. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, and a former colleague, very, very capable colleague, Associate Professor Sally Hewitt, Associate Dean International at the University of Newcastle. Sally, your 3 minutes start now.
Okay, thanks, Winnie. 3 minutes is tight for a speech pathologist. In the next 3 minutes, though, I'm going to draw on one question that's been made famous by the British-born American author and motivational speaker, Simon Sinek. Why? At an institutional level, we can implement policies, action plans, strategic goals, all of those sorts of things. And I think some of these would be helpful. However, we need to start with why. Why would men, dads, husbands take up family duties? Why do they need to? Why is it so important? I think once we address the why, and then if we frame the institutional policies and strategies around the answers to the why, maybe we'll be more successful at supporting them. So, why is it important for men to take up family duties? I think there's 2 reasons. Men can contribute to child development and well-being, and the emotional and support of their wives and mothers. So, firstly, we know that research tells us that paternal engagement, or dads, has a positive impact on the social, behavioural, psychological and cognitive outcomes of children. It's a given. Consider this example. One of my colleagues developed and evaluated a physical activity program aimed at dads and daughters. His research showed improved father-daughter physical activity levels, but also improved quality of father-daughter relationship. Men need to know the benefits of taking up some family duties, the impact they can have on their children just by being involved. Secondly, Research also tells us that fathers influence the well-being of their spouses and contribute to mothers' satisfaction just by interacting with children, contributing to childcare, and sharing household responsibilities. And the example here is a personal one. I'm a mother of 3 children, now 21, 18, and 14, a wife of a health practitioner, come business manager, come entrepreneur, and I'm also a leader in higher education. And we have both survived and thrived. To achieve what we both have, we work as a team. We communicate often, we support each other, we each compromise, so we take it in turns. At the moment, it's my husband's turn. He's embarking on a new medtech startup, and so he can focus on work. I take up more of the home duties. But that hasn't always been the case. In 2010, I moved the family to Vietnam for 6 months, and while I worked, he homeschooled 3 little kids. So it's not just about what the higher education institutions can do, it's also about the why, and educating men about the contribution that they can make by taking up some of the home and family duties is what we need to think about. Is that my 3 minutes?
I was feeling generous and I was so convinced. Sally. Wow, let's move on to, before we have a lively discussion, we're going to move to Mr. Chico Oimero, Director of Programs and Partnerships at British Council in Ghana. I nearly say Nigeria, that's where we met Chico. Chico, in the next 3 minutes, all yours.
Thank you very much, Winnie. And then, sincere thanks to Mandy for, thinking it wise to invite me to such a very important webinar. Similar to Sally, I am a father of 4 children with 1 wife. So from that perspective, I'm qualified, to speak on this topic. Nevertheless, I will, try to contextualize my intervention on the point from the premise that the role of a father from the perspective of sub-Saharan Africa differs a little. He is seen as chief security officer of the family, the father. He's the financier and then chief economic advisor of the family. I have to say this within the context of a typical sub-Saharan African family. This is debatable, particularly within the current environment of the rise of feminism. But nevertheless, I'm narrowing myself within a typical sub-Saharan African family. So he's also seen as the chief planner and master strategist of the family, the custodian of peace and tranquility, or otherwise of the family, because sometimes they also cause a lot of troubles. In essence, men are seen as the burden bearer of the family. So he is a solution bearer, as it were. The resultant effect of this is that men places very less emphasis on family duties. And the other implication of this is that they are constantly worried about the big picture of the family, and not paying so much attention on the little things that really matter sometimes. Honestly speaking, they seem to die faster than the women. There is I can't say there is an empirical evidence to support this, but anecdotally, men tend to die faster than their wives in sub-Saharan Africa. It can be attributable or contributable by some of this pressure that I'm talking about now. And then the funny thing is that when they die, they cause a lot of confusion because since when they are alive, they see themselves as the custodian of all the solutions, and no other person is actually functioning in terms of contributing to most of the hard issues in the family. The woman plays more of a supportive role. So moving to how can we support men to really play less, not really undermine their strategic role in the family, but nevertheless to pay some more attention to family duties. I think things can be done. There are a couple of things that can be done. It could be done from social support scheme. deliberate social support scheme by the government or policy institutions. Social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, seeing this as a challenge, seeing this issue as a challenge, and developing programs and projects, to support men to take up responsibilities, home duties as well. And then advocacy program. I have mentioned advocacy program because it is important for men to know that they are not the custodian of knowledge only. They are part of it, but they are not a sole custodian of knowledge. So there should be an advocacy program to let them know that they can still perform the role of supporting the family and as well as their manly role. And finally, I would say that currently you could see there is a need to have a paradigm shift a little bit in operationality of institutions. For instance, women have 3 months maternity cover and men have 10 days. That means, that goes to show the fact that we're giving you 10 days just to, play some role, but not, get deeply involved in running the affairs of, of the new child and things like that. So let me use this as an intro, to open up conversation around this. Thank you very much, Winnie.
Thanks, Chakoti. For a moment, I thought you said, that's all men would do, but you started to, give measures that actually men need quite a lot of support. So thank you. On to our next speaker is Professor Budu, Dean of Faculty of Medicine at Hasanuddin University in Indonesia, the largest university in the eastern part of Indonesia. Let's listen to Professor Budu for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Winnie. Good evening, everybody. So very deeply thanks for all of you to give me opportunity to share my experience about wanting to be this team supporting me and taking me in family duties. And I would like maybe important to speak about the advancements as women in my institution, especially in my city. But I would like to speak about the advancements women in Hasan University. It is very tremendous position of women in my institution recently because my rector is woman. Professor Dia Aristina Pulmo is woman. And there are 16 faculties in my university, and 3 of them, the dean is woman. The dean is woman. Even the many departments, not just in Faculty of Medicine, but also in the all of faculty, the department is led by many women. Even there is age big university in my city, in Makassar. In 2019, among the age university, 5 of them is rector is 4 women. 4 women. So it is my point to highlight that women, my city, especially in Makassar city, have very special position for be a leaders. Then they be a leader, but it is spread naturally based on his capability, his skill for leaders. And I very deep now because I was vice rector of the recent rector, Professor Dia, is very strong woman for leaders till now. And in Faculty of Medicine, because I am a Dean of Faculty of Medicine now, and many of my study program leaders is also come from the woman. Even my wife also is the chairman of clinical pathology, and I have many experience with her how to handle my 3 of children during the toddlers to the elementary school to the high senior school until they entered the university. Me and her together handle them. And when the toddler period, maybe I'm very tired to handle my children, because I know during the toddlers my children, my wife is still in school for her special in clinical pathology. So I handle them. Every day I take the beds and then go bring to the school, and also handle all of the things for homework and so on. But it is different when they enter to the elementary school, enter the senior school, because they need for the mother to handle many things about their position in the senior high school. So I think that my wife, the woman, should be together to handle the children. And now my first child just finished from medical doctor, and the second now is the second years in faculty of medicine, and the last one now in the third years in senior high school. So maybe more than 3 minutes. I will explain later to you. Sorry, Winnie. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very generous. You share your personal experience and how actually you support each other, and you have a very powerful woman at home, sounds like. Last but not least, Professor Nigel Healy, Professor of International Higher Education and Associate Vice President, Global Engagement at the University of Limerick in Ireland. Nigel, the stage is all yours in the next 3 minutes. Nigel, sorry, you're on mute.
Hello, everyone, and it's a great pleasure to be here. I was going to say my wife knows that I'm taking part in this Applied HE event, but I didn't have the nerve to tell her the title because I thought she might laugh. You are taking part in a debate about men with family duties, seriously. Now, in my defense, since the lockdown started in March, I've been home with the family 24/7, and I've been doing more than my fair share of laundry, cooking and cleaning. But deep down, I think that we all know 6 months of model citizenship doesn't really make up for 30 years of long hours at work and long periods traveling overseas when leaving, my wife to pick up the pieces. So I wanted to get that confession out of the way first, and then address the question, how should we support men in taking up family duties? I'm coming at this from the angle of a senior university manager. So I'm really approaching this from the point of view of how should universities support men in taking up family duties? And I think really framing this question like that for the first time has made me realize that universities are arguably focusing their efforts on the wrong things. Most universities have been working hard to increase opportunities for women and girls. So here in this part of the world, most of the Irish and British universities, for example, including my own university, University of Limerick, which is led by Kirsten May, the first female president in Ireland, we're signed up to something called the Athena Swan Charter to eliminate gender imbalances in pay and participation in higher education. In practice, though, once you go beyond eliminating overt sexual discrimination in hiring and promotion, which is outlawed in most countries, criminal offence, this means that universities have to do one of two things. They either aim at supporting the professional development of women and encouraging their participation, particularly in underrepresented areas like STEM, or they try and remove the obstacles that are presumed to put women at a disadvantage compared to their male counterparts. The latter would include, for example, flexible working hours, so mums can drop their kids off at school or pick them up, creches on campuses for babies, kindergartens for preschool children. But these are all admirable, and personally I've championed a number of these. But as the topic makes clear today, these measures presume that female academics are naturally at a disadvantage compared to men because they're wives and mothers and have duties in the home. Clearly, if men took their fair share of duties at home, many of those obstacles to the advancement of female academics would fall away. So my contention is that no university I know has proactively encouraged male staff to take up a greater share of family duties. And often the initiatives to promote gender equality uncritically assume that women are bound to do more at home. And if I can I just get 30 seconds to share one final comment? Here's an example. When I first became Dean of a business school, I worked at Manchester Metropolitan University. That was regarded as a very progressive UK university with a pioneering woman VC, Dame Alexandra Burslem. University had introduced paternity leave to encourage men to look after newborn babies. When I asked for paternity leave, asked the VC for paternity leave as my 6th baby was due, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, dear, paternity leave doesn't cover senior managers like us." Which I think, suggests that this kind of uncritical acceptance of the role of women is very, very deeply entrenched. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Nige. I think we have a really strong panel here looking at this topic from very different angles. Before we open the interaction between panelists and participants, I'm going to open the floor between our speakers to see if you have any comments, questions, observation that you want to ask your fellow speakers. I do have some questions, obviously, but I'm going to give you the privilege to ask each other questions first, or make an observation or comment first.
All right, Winnie, I'm going to jump into this because obviously I am the only non-academic in the room, as it were, and I missed a particular point in my intro, which is about this event is, higher education focused in some ways. Nevertheless, the subject matter is societal, as it were. I think we need more of a social research, to establish the relationship or the nexus, if you may, between men, or taking time to support family duties, and then living longer and establishing the linearity between the proxies of, family duties and well-being generally. If there are a way the academic community, could undertake some studies, or if there are some, it should be made visible for men to know that there is a linear relationship between taking up family duties and possibly, because the major concern in sub-Saharan Africa is the longevity. So if there is any connection with that, it is necessary that such studies be made available. Or if there is none, there should be a need for such a study.
Very interesting proposition there, Chico, because if anyone's listening and interested in that topic, and particularly linking this topic with longevity of men in sub-Saharan Africa, that's what you're suggesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Who else? Nige.
I thought you were muted then. I was just going to say you seem to be muted.
Okay, but do you have any?
No, I'm happy to open up to the floor, really. Nice to hear from others.
Can I ask a question to Sally? You're not only survived the sort of the having a partnership there. I think you have make it work. Is there a sort of secret recipe there? Is there a silver bullet that actually works all the time when you come to discuss? Because obviously it's actually quite hard, isn't it, to do it and to put it in practice?
Yeah, it is. And I guess I like Nigel, I made confessions to my husband that I was doing this talk. And so coming at it from a totally different perspective, as you can well imagine. And I actually did brief him on what I was talking about and got approval before I spoke about it. But I guess, Winnie, the thing for me, my husband's not in academia. He's not in higher education. He's in business leadership. He's an entrepreneur. He has his own pathway and track. And for us, and for me in higher education, it has been really, really tricky. And I guess what I've needed to do is, in a sense, tap into his way of thinking as a businessman and draw on the communication and the teamwork and the negotiation and all of those sorts of things to actually, I guess, make it work. What we've been very fortunate to do, or to be in a position to do, is for him to have a successful part career. And then once he got to the point where he needed, you know, to take a break, that was an opportunity for me to go. So I noticed the comment, or one of the comments in the chat box, that was asking about promotion. And that certainly has been one of the bugbears of my academic career, has been around promotion, because of the amount that I think I've needed to do as a female academic in order to prove myself. And that's taken a lot longer. But that's part of the gig, I guess. What I did like was Nigel's comments, where he actually thought we also at the University of Newcastle are part of the collective, I guess. And I think sometimes we do approach that in the wrong way. I don't think necessarily giving, you know, having the policies and procedures there in place necessarily provide women academics with what they really need, because what they need is something happening and changing sometimes at home to enable other things to happen. I don't know how that's a difficult one to answer, but what I've done is actually, I guess, made it work from a home perspective. And it sounds like that's very similar to what Professor Budu's done as well.
Thank you, Sally. Very generous, and you have clearance from your husband and approval. I really like that. So there's really a sort of a equal footing there. We're now going to turn the microphone to everyone in this fireside chat, and it's a technical part that I'm mastering every time. So while I try to do that, I can look at the attendees. Right. So if you want to ask any question, make a comment, please raise your hand and I'll unmute your microphone. And when you are going to speak, please, can you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, and also ask your question or make your comments and observations by using no more than 5 sentences, preferably, if you could. So don't be shy. Oh, Judith, you're now unmute.
Well, you know me, I'm not shy. I did pop the question into the text, into the box. But and I know you've touched on it a little bit, but I would value the panelists' thoughts on it. As I've mentioned, you know, I think women in general, it tends to be women that have suffered quite a bit in terms of their career progression in academia very often, because if they have children, they have to take a break. And when you go back, you don't always either go back to the position you were in. Sometimes you even have to go back to a different type of position. So certainly at best there's a hiatus, at worst you go backwards. And I was wondering if, you know, the panelists think if men were to take overtly more responsibility, do you think that this could have a positive impact on, you know, the career progression of all, and maybe to bring together a set of career progression rules that actually factor in career breaks very explicitly? Thank you.
Good question. Shall we go with university management first? That means all 3 of you, and then Chico can come into it.
Can I sort of kick off? Because I think we all know exactly that problem, that you know, that women are taking career breaks to have children, and often not just to have children, but to you know, raise the children for the first couple of years. And what that means is often those career breaks are at a time where they would be most productive. You know, in their early 30s, they finish their PhDs, they're starting to publish, and by the time they come back from those career breaks, you know, their male counterparts have moved on significantly, and it's difficult for them to catch up. So I guess what I went in my introductory comments, you know, I think all universities have tried to sort of compensate for those disadvantages by, for example, requiring fewer research papers for promotion when you know, female staff have had career breaks. And certainly in the UK, the research exercise formally did that in terms of the number of papers that were evaluated and so on. But I guess what I was sort of arguing was, we're constantly coming at this from a sort of almost like a deficit perspective, that we have to compensate for the fact that because women are women, they can't be as good as men, which is kind of what it reduces down to, doesn't it? That they're not going to have quite the same research output because they're women. And I think that clearly we do need to make some sort of compensation because of the biological side of things. But of course, the nurture side of things, the way society is structured, is massively amplifying that inequality. Because if men were doing their fair share at home, once the mums have recovered from giving birth, there's no reason why those childcare duties couldn't be broadly equally split, and the women wouldn't fall behind in the way they currently are. They wouldn't need the length of research breaks, perhaps, the length of the break that they need. So I think because we're looking at this from the presumption that there has to be a disadvantage, all we can do is compensate when we're in that mindset. If you were wanting to take this much more seriously, you would look at try to remove or deal with the problem at root cause, which would be to provide opportunities and encouragement for men to be much more actively involved. And we all know as men, you know, some of the pressures on us that we're expected to be working late and to do things like that because we're men. Well, you could as a university proactively work on that as an issue. I mean, you know, in my university, we are encouraged to have all the meetings between 10 and 4, regardless of gender, so that you're not, you know, if you have got to do something with the family outside that core time, you've got the flexibility to do that. So I think in answer to Judith's question, yes, I think if we worked hard at supporting men to be engaged with the families much more actively, the gap that needed to be compensated for would be infinitely less.
I'm just going to make another comment and take that one step further, Nige. I guess one of the points that I wanted to get across in what I communicated in my 3 minutes was that I think what we often do in a university is we assume that everybody knows the benefits of you know, different activities. And yet, you know, there are many programs out there that actually really encourage men and fathers and dads to be involved with their children, but they're never programs that are taken up by universities. They're programs that are often offered to, you know, inmates in jails or, you know, lower socio-ec sort of corridors of our communities. They don't necessarily target you know, the academic community and actually educate academics on, you know, some of the, I guess, limitations of an academic career, which, you know, in some ways I actually sort of almost not feel sorry, but I think sometimes that academic males miss out on the opportunity to engage with their children because of, you know, the way that the academic world actually expects performance in a way. And you know, Judith, to sort of make a comment from a female academic perspective, I think promotion is a very difficult process. I think you know, I've assessed promotions from other universities and also been through the promotion process on both ends myself. And I actually think that, you know, there still is a lot of discussion that potentially needs to be had in order to actually really unpack what relative to opportunity, for example, means. you know, which is the takeaway term for, you know, how much have you been able to achieve relative to opportunity? What is relative to opportunity, and how's that actually defined in your institution and against the performance indicators that might be required for different levels of promotion? Yeah.
This is in fact a very sort of key question. I mean, lots of discussions happening at individual institutions and even British Council, I imagine, Chico. It was only about 10 years ago that they introduced paternity leave, and it's already very advanced at the time. Thank you, Judith.
Could I just come back with just one more sentence?
Of course.
As a response. I thank you. I think actually it was Nigel's example that was the excellent one as well, in that for me, it's also about leading by example from right at the top to in terms of how you set things up, but also how you behave as an individual. I mean, I run my own consultancy now, but I've been at executive level like Nigel and Sally for several years as Deputy Vice Chancellor and Pro Vice Chancellor, you know, and I think often people as well, it's almost like you're meant to be superhuman. You are working all the time. You don't have your holidays. You're almost proud to say, please send me an email at any time and please contact me at any time. And I think you don't always know that actually could do damage, and that could be setting, I think, a level of expectation on people, or even putting some people off taking those career progressions, men or women. So I think probably having people who are senior who can lead by example and feel as though they don't actually have to be superhuman isn't anyway a bad thing. Thank you very much for answering my question.
Thanks, Judith. I cannot agree with you more. We are not robots as executives. We do need to sleep and have downtime and holiday. While we're waiting for other questions, I do have one that I would like to ask Professor Badu. You actually spent some time in Japan as well, and also obviously native Indonesian. From a cultural perspective, are you seeing similarities, or are you seeing major differences there? And what in your own culture, or what you have observed in Japan, they have done differently?
Thank you, indeed. So I was in Japan more than 10 years ago, maybe, and I also brought my family to Japan. There is one point, the difference of Japan and Indonesians when I was there. The first is the family bond in Indonesia still very tightly. And still use the extended family more for Indonesian compared in Japanese family, because I saw the Japanese family, after have a family, they separated from the extended family and they together handle the children. And I saw in Japan, there's many facilities there for daycare. They can put their children, the toddlers, in the daycare school, and then together go to the job place, together to university, who is academician. But we are in Indonesia, we still less of daycare. So we are still, together, husband and wife, handle the children together. And also the important thing, the Indonesians still have a time to put their toddlers in extended family. In grandfathers and uncles. And then after going back to the campus, going back to the office, they take their children and then go to the house. But I saw in Japan, extended family not so spend well because they separated from the extended family. But I thought that Indonesian men and Indonesian men, also a slight sin, because I always saw also Japanese men taking their child to go to the kindergarten, go to the daycare, and also pick up the child and come from the kindergarten to the apartment. Same in Indonesia as well.
Thank you. So they're doing their fair share as well. Thank you very much. I've seen a participant putting his or her hand, I cannot tell from the name. Hanuna, I'm going to unmute you now.
Still showing as muted, Linny.
Yeah, I have a mute. I think it's her own microphone. Can you, Hanuna, if you're online, if you can hear me, can you unmute? I'm going to give you one level up, so you are promoted to panelist. Yes. Not successful. Helena? I'm not having a response, so I'm going to move to I don't want to pick friends, so I'm just waiting for her to come back. While waiting, I do have a question for Chico.
Okay.
It sounds like in sub-Saharan Africa, the challenge to really support men is actually quite immense. But you did give us some pointers earlier on. And if you were to pick one winning one, given that you used to work in the ministry of the federal government, pick one that you think the government and most institutions will buy in and support. Which one would you put in front of them and say, this is the one, let's get on with it?
Well, you know, naturally, the childbearing function of women, you know, sort of forces a sort of a lull in their career progression in some ways, such that when they return from, you know, maternity leave, it will be a recovery, sort of a recovery mode for women. So in some ways, put them in its advantage position. So what I will suggest really is, in order to encourage men to support family duties, so that the women can recover quickly in some ways, you know, to recover after childbearing, and then reduce the pressure on family activities, you know, on women. Take, for instance, I can use myself as an example. Since I got married to my wife about how many years ago, 11 years or 12 years ago, I've pursued 3 different master's degrees. But she has been crawling on one because of the weight of the family functions on her. So what I would suggest is, you know, if the government can produce incentive program that will encourage men to perform, take part, more responsible role in family duties, that would be appreciated. And again, if a man can, you know, say, write a memo to the boss and say, I want to take a break this period to support my wife, you know, at home, to enable her, you know, pursue a publishing work she's pursuing or a paper she's publishing. You know, in a typical sub-Saharan African society, that will not be seen as a very cogent reason to ask for a career break. So if there will be an institutional mechanism where the government can support such reasons, such positions for men to, you know, to take in order to support family home, that would be really appreciated. So in essence, my quick point will be for government institution to institutionalize a process, a policy, or gazette, as it were, for men to be able to support women and perform more of family duties.
Thank you. Interesting. I'm seeing Sally nodding to do something that works in Australia.
No, look, I mean, I guess I'm just interested in that because I guess I sort of take it from the perspective of, you know, you can have the policy there, but would men still actually, you know, follow that, I guess, if they didn't understand the benefit of what they were doing. So, you know, I wonder if the, you know, policy paired with education or advocacy around, you know, what impact a man can have in taking up those roles would actually then, you know, be a proactive way of addressing it as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I like the idea, but I guess, you know, I think it needs to be paired with, you know, males actually being accepting of it. And I think acceptance comes with education or understanding.
Absolutely. I guess that's part of the point I made concerning establishing empirically the linearity between men taking up family duties and their well-being. You know, if that can be established, you know, through evidence-based research, men will now willingly choose that course, you know, knowing that it will lead to more well-being and them living longer and enjoying the wealth of this life. So that would be really appreciated in some ways, really.
And I guess there is research that supports that. That's the, you know, there is research that supports the benefits of men interacting with children on their children, or of men, you know, supporting their wife on their wives, you know, emotional and emotional well-being. So, you know, there is some research supporting that. And I guess that's the point that I wanted to get across, that, you know, we're ignoring a whole body of research that's actually saying, you know, if you guys just do this, you'll actually have a huge impact on society. But, you know, counterbalancing that though also is, you know, the environments that we live and work in, and, you know, the experiences that we've had as children, you know, and often culture and personal experience and history impact on how we undertake certain tasks or roles in society. And so, you know, there's huge shifts that need to occur. It's not a quick fix by any
No, it's not. No.
So
you know, as you mentioned, go on, Winnie.
Go on, Chico, finish.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that she pointed on culture, and that seems to be an area to dwell a little bit on, because there is some cultural dimension. I don't know how that plays out in other geographies, but in Africa, it's a major cultural issue. You know, seeing a man carrying a bag, going to the market to do shopping and buying, you know, recipes for cooking. Some cultures frown at it, that your wife is manipulating you, that you're a weak man, that sort of thing. So I mean, it's a very important point that we need to also look at in discussing this, really.
Yeah, and Chiquito, that there are some of those elements that still stand in Australia. You know, that stand in terms of, you know, a male, and historically, you know, a male is the provider. Really.
Yeah.
You know, if you look back in ancient Egypt, for example, they're the provider of education. In ancient Greece, they're the head of the family, you know. So I guess, you know, as humankind developed and, you know, societies and different cultures developed, so did the role of the male. But to change that, you know, is probably going to take the next period of time. And you can see shifts in society, you know, and I think, Nigel, some of the institutional things that you've talked about are some of the, you know, shifts in the places we work that will potentially then start to influence change in society and changing culture, not necessarily, you know, the culture at work, for example.
Right, our time is almost there. So to close, please can I invite each speaker to make a final comment in 60 seconds, and we'll do so in reversing order. So Nige, you're going first.
My bad. Sorry, I keep turning up. We got into the habit at work of always muting when we're not speaking, and so I just have to kind of switch it off. So I mean, I think this has been a really fascinating topic, because it has challenged me to think about this whole issue of how you kind of empower women and promote gender equality from the bottom up, you know, by change, rather than trying to do it from the top down and so on. And I guess I was thinking about it a bit like this, you know, that, you know, if the problem is that women can't advance in academia and other fields the same rate as men because they shoulder an unfair burden at home, then arguably the solution is not the one we're doing at the moment. The solution is not to find ways of adjusting promotions criteria and finding ways to compensate. It's really for universities, for employers to encourage men to play a much fuller part at home. And the kind of parallel we often use in the Southern Hemisphere is, you know, if the problem is that people fall off a high cliff, the best solution is to put a fence at the top. It's not to put an ambulance at the bottom to treat them when they're injured. And I think we're kind of letting the damage be done, and then we're trying to compensate for the damage that's being done to equalize things up again. Whereas if we could intervene at core, and I think Sally's made some really powerful points, that to do that effectively, you would have to make people understand the benefits of sharing that responsibility. But I think this has been a really quite an eye-opener. I'm going to go back and have another think about some of the things I've been involved with. Thank you.
Thanks, Naj. Professor Padu?
Yeah, a little bit about the last my speech. Maybe in this highly globalized era, it is no longer advisable for men to expect power and dominance in the household. In order for us to advance, men and women need to go there together. Maybe by working together, our children will benefit more cognitively and emotionally, and we as a family unit will also be stronger. I think children need both parents to be involved during that development. Children might need more attention from father, and during other periods maybe they need their mother more. And so men and women should complement each other in taking their children during their life periods. Maybe that is my last points, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Padu. Chakoti?
So thank you very much, Winnie. Let me use my few seconds to round up this, my thought on this. I really believe that if we are looking for a society that is equal, egalitarian, we should, create an environment, an ecosystem where men will be supported to perform home duties. Just taking the Niger's point a while ago, organizations are rolling out EDI policies, EDI strategies, but they constantly miss the elements that have to do with men supporting their wives in performing home functions, which will enable women in reverse to have a good career progression, just like men, and then live their optimum, goal in life. I keep using myself as an example in some of these things. If the environment support me to support my wife to take care of the children, obviously she could have, done better in her career. So organizations should be mindful that EDI policies should not rest on what happens in the workplace. There is some things that happen at home that influences what happens in the workplace. So men should be supported to take up family responsibilities, so we can have a system that is supportive for women.
Brilliant, thank you. Last but not least, Sally.
Yeah, I've got it. I guess, I want to say thank you for the discussion. I must admit I was slightly daunted by being on a panel talking about men in higher education and being the only woman on the panel. I really do, I guess, appreciate the thought that's gone into this particular topic, because I think that, you know, Nigel, one thing you said was we have been focusing on empowering women, but maybe we actually need to think about empowering men to make actually different decisions, and what those other decisions might look like in terms of the benefit for you know, the children and family and lifestyle and culture that we all try and aspire to, you know, but also not lose sight of the fact that, you know, men do want to have a career themselves as well, just as much as women do. So I guess I'm very mindful of the fact that, you know, we don't want to bias it either one way or another. We want to, you know, clearly provide opportunities for both, for the benefit of the broader society. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sally. To the audience, I hope you have, and the speakers, I hope you have enjoyed today's Apply HE Fireside Chat. We can't quite put our hands together, but I'm asking you to put our hands together for our incredible panel members: Associate Professor Sally Hewitt, Mr. Chico Oimero, Professor Budu, and also Professor Nigel Healy. And to the Apply HE team, Mandy, Simon, and Peter, and you from all corners of the world. See you next month. Mandy, off to you.
Thank you. Right, thank you everyone for the very insightful comments and questions. I have learned a lot and I hope that's the same for you as well. I'd like to express my deep appreciation to our wonderful speakers and moderator for their time and contribution. And also thank you, our dear participants, for joining us for the Applied HE Fireside Chat. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Hasanuddin University of Indonesia, for their valuable support, as well as our hosting partner, Education Insight UK. Well, this marks the end of this particular webinar, with many more events planned. The next Fireside Chat, Session 5, is on the 21st of October, Wednesday at 9 p.m. Singapore time. Supported by Education Insight and Hasanuddin University of Indonesia, the topic is Recruiting and Mentoring Minority Pioneers. As usual, Mrs. Winnie Ely, Partner of Education Insight from the UK, is our moderator. And we have 4 very distinguished speakers from the United Kingdom, Malaysia, the US, and Hong Kong to provide that global perspective. This slide shows you the future dates for our series of Fireside Chats, and it will go on to the end of the year. Our other regular event, Squaring the Circle Debate, is scheduled for next month on Wednesday, 7th October at 9 p.m. Singapore time. Next month's debate motion is so-called soft skills are more crucial than subject knowledge. So be sure to join our speakers, Ramatu, Anil, Grace, and Dawn, and debate master Kevin Downing on Wednesday, 7th October, 9 p.m. Singapore time. In fact, there is a Squaring the Circle debate every first Wednesday of the month for the rest of the year. So what this means is we have a webinar every other week, always on a Wednesday at 9 p.m. Singapore time, all the way to the end of the year. We also have one more special webinar in September under our events brand, Applied HE Exchange. And this webinar focuses on professional higher education. If you want to learn more about the innovations taking place in skills-based education, join our inaugural professional higher education webinar on the 22nd and 23rd of September at our usual time slot of 9 p.m. Singapore time. This special 2-part webinar will address the digitization of skills-based education, threat, delusion, or panacea. On Tuesday, 22nd September at 9 p.m. Singapore time, we will cover the policy perspective with speakers from Sri Lanka, Germany, Malaysia, and the Philippines. And on the next day, Wednesday, 23rd September, also at 9 p.m. Singapore time, we have the practitioner perspective with speakers from Thailand, Kenya, Singapore, Indonesia, and Germany. The moderator will be, of course, our very charming Mrs. Winnie Ely, whom we've had the pleasure of accompanying today. Don't worry if you can't remember all the dates. We will be sending you our weekly emailers, or you can visit our website, appliedhe.com. In the meantime, do check out our Applied HE Extra News website, where you can submit your institution's news and press releases. A piece of good news to share if you have not heard about it yet. We are pleased to announce that Applied HE Extra News is now indexed by Google News. This means our readership is growing rapidly, and we can now truly promote you on the global stage and at no charge at all. This is great news for both readers and institutions who publish news via the Applied HE online news platform. Also, do take a look at our Applied HE Job Ready rating. The new rating system emphasizes teaching and learning, graduate skills, employability, and interaction with industry. The rating is also non-prescriptive and can be applied to different types of institutions across different sectors, from full-fledged research universities to specialized institutions. Please drop us a line if you'd like to learn more about the Job Ready ratings and how it can translate into affordable strategies for global branding and marketing. We're also in the process of launching a pilot to evaluate English as a medium of instruction, whereby we measure the quality and depth of an institution's English language programs, especially for institutions from non-English speaking countries which offer English language degree programs. The Applied HE EMI Ready rating can be a useful internal benchmarking tool and a great marketing tool for the recruitment of international students. So please do reach out to us if you would like to join the pilot. It's free, and we still have some open places for certain countries. And finally, I'm pleased to announce that we will be launching Applied HE's own social media platform called Applied HE Future on the 1st of January of next year. A trusted social media inspired platform that connects everyone from high school to professional career to lifelong learning for the 3 E's: education, employment, and everything in between. So watch out for our pre-launch emailers, which we will be sending out next month. And last but not least, as you know, we are the new kid on the block, and we're very grateful for all the support that we can get, which is why I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge once again all our very supportive webinar partners. They are City University of Hong Kong, Universitas Airlangga of Indonesia, Universitas Hasanuddin of Indonesia, the University of Lahore of Pakistan, Chinese Cultural University of Taiwan, Changzhou Christian University of Taiwan, Pearl Academy of India, JL Education Consultants, and Education Insights UK. A big thank you for the valuable support given to Applied HE. All right, thanks very much, everyone. I hope to see you all again next Tuesday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. for our 2-part webinar, the Applied HE Exchange on Professional Higher Education. So thank you once again for your attendance at tonight's Fireside Chat, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good on you. Bye, everyone.
Right.
Thank you.